back from the recess. Thank you, Deputy City Manager Patrick, for setting that up, and welcome back, Councilmember Reed, Councilmember Wilder, and Mayor Taylor. The first item on our agenda is going to be a continuation of the overview of downtown improvement districts from Ms. Ashley Kirshner.
Mr. Chairman, if it is all right with you, we'd like to do a very quick run-through of the
I'm looking forward to it.
of the presentation, and then we'll have discussion. Also joining Ashley is the president of the Downtown Lynchburg Association, Chris Boswell, also a downtown stakeholder, so will be of value to our discussion, to your discussion. So with that, we're going to run through this very, very quickly, and then we'll open it up to discussion.
All right, we'll do this like a speed round. Okay. All right, so just reminding us, what exactly is a downtown improvement district? Public-private partnership where property owners invest in the area's vitality and economic success, operates by collecting assessment revenues from property owners within the district, a very clearly defined boundary. It enhances but does not replace regular city services. Funds are then used for things like marketing, maintenance, beautification, public safety enhancements, and business support. It must be approved by a local government and/or property owners, and typically requires enabling legislation at the state or local level. And we do here in Virginia have enabling legislation for that. So this is just a quick list of all the places that improvement districts are used: urban downtowns, commercial corridors, tourism areas, historic districts, and suburban retail centers as well. All right, so what are these mechanisms not used for? They are not used for general government services. They supplement, do not replace municipal services like police, fire, and public schools. They do not have anything to do with zoning and land use regulation. They are not used for large-scale public works projects like bridges, highways, and sewer systems, and they do not replace law enforcement or have arrest powers. There are opportunities to help with public safety, but that's not one area in which they do that. So, how are these established in a community? The city passes an ordinance defining the downtown improvement district's boundaries, the funding mechanism, and the governance structure. And there are two paths in Virginia in which this can happen. One is that city council goes through a public hearing process and then votes. The second is that 50% of property owners must first sign a petition and then city council votes. However, the second option is only used when the work that the improvement district is going to do is things like building roads. Outside of that, the 50% of property owner petition is not needed. So number one is generally the way things go. Public engagement. So before any city would get to that step, it is recommended and it is standard to go through a pretty significant public engagement process. Obviously, when you're talking about taxes, you want to make sure that there's a lot of public engagement, especially if those taxes are going to be levied on a specific group of people. So before that happens, there's a planning and feasibility stage within the group, within the city and whoever else is working on that project, to just talk about costs, benefits, potential services it might provide, and get enough of a structure together so that when they do go out to the stakeholders, there's at least enough information, enough of a format to be able to have a good conversation about whether or not those stakeholders would feel good about an improvement district. So those two components are very, very important before moving forward. Okay, so we're not going to go through these one by one, but we'll just mention each slide. So again, things that an improvement district can fund: public space enhancements, sidewalks, wayfinding, lighting upgrades, green spaces, beautification, things like flowers, planters, graffiti mitigation, public art and murals, facade improvement grants, public experience and safety enhancements. So ambassador programs, it's one of the biggest things that improvement districts generally fund, is people that go around and they clean and they talk to visitors and they help people find parking, and they're really just a crew that keeps things going. Security and law enforcement partnerships, homelessness and outreach if needed, and also crime prevention. Business support and marketing is often a part of an improvement district. Event programming, branding, marketing of all kinds, collaborative advertisement and promotions, perhaps with the businesses, and retail and business attraction events. And then lastly, economic development and growth. So anything related to the recruitment and retention of new tenants for potential spaces, workforce development, real estate and development advocacy, and market research and data analytics. Okay, so just to clarify the structure of something like this. So once a DID is established, most cities then partner with a nonprofit to execute on the work of the established DID. So how the partnership works, the city establishes it, they then select a nonprofit management partner to administer the DID. The nonprofit partner engages stakeholders and implements the program. And then the city ensures that those funds are allocated properly, requiring annual reports, budgets, and performance assessments. So once again, these are the example DIDs in Virginia. These are just some of them. There's actually a couple more, but these are the ones that are more closely tied with being close to our population. And measuring success and sustainability. So I think we mentioned that usually DIDs are reviewed every 5 years, and the city decides once again if they want to enter into that same arrangement. And these are some of the things that you look at to find out, is it working? And is it actually doing all of the things that it's supposed to do for the economy and for the downtown? So foot traffic and business growth, crime reduction, safety perception, property value increases, and stakeholder satisfaction. And then, as I just mentioned, there's a renewal process at usually every 5 years. So it is not a forever decision. It is a 5-year decision. Anything less than 5 years, I don't think would be enough time to really establish, the success of something. But 5 years is a good time to say, okay, we've done it. How did it go? And do we want to continue to do it again?
Thank you, Ashley. A little bit on the numbers around a DID. What we've used here for demonstration purposes is the Downtown Lynchburg Association's current boundary. As you can see, it's essentially the expressway to 5th Street and then down to the river and Clay Street. If we were looking at this boundary from the standpoint of establishing a DID, we'd probably recommend a few changes. First of all, everything in that triangle on the other side of, is that the Blackwater Creek Trail, probably would come out. I think that's primary. There's some city property down there, and you've got a little bit of property that's owned by the foundry. And then you're picking up a little bit of the Diamond Hill neighborhood in the, if you orient yourself to the map here, in the lower right-hand corner. That is primarily residential, and when you're there, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're downtown. So we want to take a close look there. But if we use this map just to establish some baseline numbers, what you're looking at is it's about 675 parcels, land parcels in the boundary, total taxable value of over $270 million, about 200 acres. And if you look at by assessed value, what's the makeup of those parcels? The largest is commercial, followed by exempt, which is primarily going to be your city-owned buildings and parcels. Then you have from there it's multifamily and single-family residential. So that's what is in the current boundary as it currently exists. Next slide. So how much revenue would you generate from a DID? And keep in mind that the way to think about this is DID revenue is generated by a real estate tax that is charged on top of the citywide rate. And the amount of that tax can vary, right? So what we've shown you here is a wide range of impacts. So 1 penny in this DID area would generate about $27,000 in revenue a year. Keep in mind that we have included in here all of the tax abatement properties that exist right now. So as those properties came out of the tax abatement program, this number would grow. I think if we looked at this number and assumed no tax abatement, we'd be closer to I think $34,000 per penny. But you can see it escalates there. 10 cents is $270,000, 20 cents is almost $550,000. And then, of course, it's important to take a look at who our largest property owners in the area, in the district would be. You would see that the top two, the Virginian and Bluff Walk Center, which is the Craddock Terry, are two hotels downtown. Next, City Market Lofts, James U Investments, I believe, is the Bank of the James building. Then you have Lynchburg Grand, so that's what, 3 hotels in the top 5. West on Main is a number of buildings, I believe, that are owned by Tony West. And then from here, I can't remember from a month ago, but AC Capital.
I did remember a month ago.
Yes. Gish Holdings is the Gish Flats. 700 Main Street, I believe, is the, we'll find out.
Or BWXT.
BWXT, no, that's Rosenberg.
You're right. Oh, that's Pacific Life,
And,
right?
and 700 Main Street is Pacific
Yeah.
Life. So those are your largest taxpayers in the in the district for reference, and you can see what 1 cent is there for each of those property owners. Next slide. So as we think about a downtown improvement district in Lynchburg, a couple of things are important. Typically, a downtown improvement district is established at the same time that your downtown placemaking organization comes online, right? Well, in our case, DLA, as our downtown placemaking organization, has been here for 27 years, and they're already providing a number of services that a DID would provide. So if we were to implement a DID, during the public outreach program, what we would likely hear is that there would need to be new services provided. And figuring out exactly what the priorities are for the downtown stakeholders is important. Many DLA donors, existing donors and sponsors are downtown property owners. So we would expect, if you were to implement a downtown improvement district, that we would see a reduction in the donations that are made to an organization like DLA if they were operating the DID. But I think that that total we're talking about is $30,000 to $40,000. And then again, DIDs can't replace existing city services, and that's important as we look forward. So next slide, and that is it. So wanted to run through that very quickly for the committee members again, and now opportunity for discussion.
Sure. Any discussion, questions?
Thank you.
Wilder?
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a lot of information. I appreciate the presentation. Just a few quick, I know we don't have a lot of time, a few quick questions. So does the DID, is that what you call it, DID? Do they have like a community council or volunteers of the neighborhood network? How does that work? How do you get input from the
So-
community?
The different cities do it in different ways, but most of them are governed by a board, and that board generally is made up of property owners. And so the property owners are the ones that are paying into it, and therefore they're the ones establishing the priorities of the work of the organization.
And as far as the amount, I guess the city council set the amount, whatever that's decided. And I guess if you do something of this nature, I don't know what the time period possibly might be like. It's like you have some community meeting with the stakeholders to see, of course, what their thoughts are. You might have some say, oh, I don't want it at all, or I do want it, and then just kind of figure that piece out, but those who don't want it and kind of try to work with them, and those who do want it, and get here, mainly just make sure stakeholders have a voice in this whole process at the very beginning, yes, sir.
This is something that doesn't happen overnight. I mean,
Yes.
A year would be crazy fast.
Right.
2 years would probably be more ideal as far as doing all
Yes.
those things you just mentioned, getting stakeholders rounded
Right.
up, getting people at the table to talk about their needs, their wants, their dislikes, and
Yeah.
their likes.
Yeah.
It takes a while to iron out all those things and to really get to the ins and outs of the advantages or the disadvantages based on whatever tax rate is decided. So it's really a process that everybody will have a voice in if they choose to share their voice. What we don't want is for people to come post haste and say,
I didn't know about it.
I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
this, and we've been talking about it for a year or two. Well, now we're starting here, and I would say 2027 would be a legitimate time frame for something like this to happen.
And I just want to make sure that message is out there, that this is just a preliminary discussion process, and we want to get input from the stakeholders, but we're just brainstorming ideas. I want people to think we're doing something immediately, that they know we're just brainstorming, we get this in the works. We just try to get all the information necessary for a project of this nature. Great, thank you.
This was actually, this initiative was sort of brought forward through discussion that council, or that Chairman Mischens had raised, and the interest he had in the downtown improvement district. I think what we had discussed is we'd get through the budget process.
Yes.
And then we'd come back and we'd make a presentation to the full council after we get feedback from the committee. But I do think this is a process that you enter into very intentionally and make sure that the right people have a seat at the table to have their voices and concerns heard. It's also important to mention, Ashley went through all the things that DIDs can do. No DID does all of that, right? So it's really determining what's important for each and every community.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Yeah, I do think you are right, though, to make it clear that we are not currently in this process. I did get a call from a property owner after the presentation last time, making sure that we weren't, halfway through this process, and he was about to owe many thousands of dollars. So at this point, it's just a discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
And just
Make
an
sure that's
idea,
clear.
yeah, and just an idea of how many cents go, I think, and Ashley's got some stats as well, but 10 cents seems to be about average. There are some outliers that are in the 30 cents range, and then there are some lower than that in the 7 cents range, but nothing really below that if you're going to implement a DID or a bid, whatever you want to call it, for your community. So there's a wide range, but it seems to narrow down into that 10 to 12 cents range as far as the tax is concerned.
Thank you. That's it. Nope.
Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand, it sounds like the DLA is doing so much of what a DID would already do in a lot of aspects. And one of the things that DID does is still engage with a nonprofit to have that component of it, which is what the DLA is. And so I'm just, thinking forward, if we have this discussion again, trying to find the need for it, what the actual benefit would be. I think it's fine for community stakeholders to have a say, but I feel like our businesses already have such a voice with the DLA. They're very invested. They already have such a conversation with the board members, or so many of the board members are. Business owners themselves are very invested. So, I'd be curious to see kind of really what, aside from just, the fact that the chairman wanted to kind of explore the conversation, what the real pro would be at this point, even wanting to have this, considering we already have something that's a successful model in place,
So, I was just, it's more of a funding mechanism
Okay.
for the things that DLA can't, so DLA is mostly privately, it is pretty much privately funded through either donations, grants,
Right.
outside of the director's salary and benefits. So the monies that we raise there are used for our support staff and then for the events and the things that we do as far as placemaking, the Bright Nights on the Bluff Walk, the fireworks, the Launch LYH programs, we, apply for grants and all these things. The excess money that it would cost, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, to do graffiti removal, planters, the beautification projects, extra safety measures, the ambassadors, the amount of money that DLA would have to raise above and beyond what we already do, it's just not, without the staff and without a lot of things working in our favor, it couldn't happen to get that kind of money, to get the added benefits.
Okay.
So I think that's where it's a little bit different in what DLA does and then what a bid or a DID would do above and beyond that.
That's true. So, additional services, we're at the point right now where we can't grow anymore. We are at our limit in terms of the amount of money we could possibly make to do the work that we're doing. At DLA. And actually, we're above the limit. We've been very creative and very scrappy, and we've been able to do a lot with a little, but we are not sustainably funded moving forward, doing the work that we're doing. So both an improvement district can do two things. It can add additional services for downtown, which as it grows, it will need. There will come a time where Public Works cannot maintain all of the green spaces that come on down here. And we can't add additional elements that people want. We can't clean up after enough people as the population grows, right? And so putting a mechanism in place to be ready for that is something that's been, it was in the first master plan and it's in the current master plan, because that mechanism then, as the downtown grows, so too does the fund to maintain it. But the other thing is, downtown Lynchburg, I'm happy to know that you see us doing work and we're proud of that work. But it's, we're at a ceiling, and if we're going to do anything different moving forward, it's not going to be us continuing to find, more sponsorship. There's a ceiling, as you know, to that.
Right. So has been the biggest pushback maybe in cities that have considered it and it's not gone forward, or the cities that have gone forward with it, but maybe has been the biggest concern from the citizens in the conversation? Do you know?
Sure. I don't know that I can speak to that right now.
Okay.
I mean, I had a conversation recently. Asheville just did a downtown improvement district process last year. They did approve it and move forward. I can imagine that the pushback is money.
Yeah.
And so that is why it's so essential to make sure that you have, I guess ultimately what you have to decide is you have to have a critical mass of property owners on board that want it. And you just have to really think about what is that critical mass, right? What is enough?
And I think everybody's always afraid of doing something new, right? Change is just hard to grasp sometimes. But if you go to communities like Greenville, South Carolina, to that downtown, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chapel Hill, even Richmond, what they've done with their business improvement district or downtown improvement district, it's hard to get them to see the big picture until it's happened,
Right.
until the money's come in and the services that they have requested have been implemented. But if you go to those towns, people are proud of their downtown, and it shows. I mean, the
Right.
storefronts, just the flowers and the things. It's safe. You feel safe. It's well lit. All those things. So it's hard to anticipate how people are going to feel until all those things are in place.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's good, thanks.
Mayor Taylor?
It will take some of the stress off of Public Works.
So ultimately, I think what potentially, and again, it depends on what the stakeholders are would tell council is their priorities. But I think what you typically see is clean and safe. We want clean and safe. That is potentially increased trash pickup, increased graffiti, sidewalk sweeping, planters, lighting, all of these things that make, sometimes you're in a place and it just doesn't feel right and you don't know why, right? Oftentimes, when you're focused on clean and safe, it addresses those things without people being able to pinpoint why they didn't feel the way they feel. So that's really important, and there's a lot of value to business owners, property owners downtown in creating more clean and safe. So does it help Public Works? Absolutely. There's a baseline level to what we're able to do with our Public Works Department downtown. The idea of having potentially ambassadors who do a lot of especially the cleaning work, is extremely beneficial to downtown. They're typically in branded golf shirts or other or overall attire, and they're trained not only to help keep downtown clean, but they're trained in customer service and to help orient people downtown to where they need to go. I know, just as an anecdote, was talking to Holly Jennings in our office, and she said, in the last 2 days, she has essentially been a downtown ambassador. She's seen people walking around who didn't quite look like they knew where they were going. She approached them, say, hey, so on and so forth. Oddly enough, both folks were looking for Market on Main, but she sent them in the right direction. She walked one couple to Market on Main, and then got to ask a ton of questions. Why you here, so on and so forth. which provides some valuable feedback about visitors to the city. So typically, yes, it takes some of the burden off of Public Works, it takes some of the burden off of the general city services that are funded by, not just taxpayers downtown, but taxpayers across the city. It makes so that the services that are received by downtown is funded by downtown, the services on top of what is standard. And it creates a downtown that feels welcoming, that's cleaner, and that is safer. And there's a lot of value there.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mayor Taylor? Appreciate you guys putting this together. I guess a couple things kind of to touch on, because we all met ahead of this, and I appreciate that time too. Just some of the things, just kind of have an idea of kind of where I was coming from and things that I was thinking about, and stuff that I've discussed with other property owners are clean, safe, bright is kind of what I'm thinking. I've heard a lot. I think have you seen the list of all the broken lights that people have put out there, where lights are not working? And as foot traffic expands downtown, which is going to happen with the amphitheater, right? I can't think of a better thing to be able to do than to be able to have the resources to pay off-duty police officers to do standbys down there. That's something we're, used to being able to do. So that would provide that kind of funding to be able to say, hey, you know what, we're going to put an extra police officer on Main Street. We're going to put an extra one on Commerce Street. We're going to put an extra one on Jefferson Street on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, whatever the demand determines it could be, things like that. I think that would probably make people feel comfortable in the evenings too. Just things like that. And then the thing that I thought was really neat that you talked about was the sweeping. Can you share about that? Like some of the cleaning stuff, like sweeping sidewalks and.
Yeah, I mean, so
Just different
ambassadors are
things.
generally, they are out there every day, all day. And their job is to assess whatever the need is of every block. And so whether it's that day is graffiti or it's cleaning up cigarette butts or even, things like planters are beautiful, but people come by and they put trash in the planters or they pull up the flowers, and that just happens. So replanting, things like that, I mean, they're assessing the cleanliness needs all
Sure.
the time and addressing them.
And to me, that sounds great, just kind of have that appearance. And in my head, I envision this bright, clean, safe Main Street lined with American flags down the light poles. That's what's there in my head. That's what I'm thinking about, with, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, there's the police officer walking down the street or on the bicycle, just talking to folks, making them feel good. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool, and I'm surprised you haven't brought it up yet, is your experience with this in Norfolk and the kind of things you did with the Fred, which I have been a consumer of.
Fred is a free ride everywhere downtown. And it's a golf cart with a bunch of seats. They drive around, and if they see someone who needs a ride, they just hop in the golf cart, and Fred will take them wherever they need to go in the district.
And when we've got quite a different amount of elevation changes, for folks that might have a hard time getting from, Jefferson Street up to Main Street, that'd be kind of neat, just to have somebody being able to do that. And go ahead, Mayor Taylor. I had one more question. Go ahead.
That said, I had a constituent this week call me and ask me about transportation to the farmer's market and throughout the area. Yes.
It's one of the most requested things of our organization, and that's just a good example of the type of thing that we could never, fund on our own as a nonprofit.
Or staff.
Fund, staff, maintain, all of that.
We had that bus for a while,
The hopper.
Hopper, yeah, yes, like a year, I guess.
The golf cart thing seems to work better. It's a lot more mobile.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to turn a bus.
Yeah.
In some of the places that we have downtown. But the Fred, I've been to Norfolk as well and have used Fred. Yeah, it's a great concept, and especially with the topography that we're dealing with to get from down on the amphitheater side up to Commerce and Main and Church can be difficult, especially for larger people like myself.
And it's something else I think we discussed too, is you could even, one of the things that is a challenge for us as a city, obviously, is we've got that ordinance with the snow removal, right? For sidewalks. So the property owner is responsible for moving the snow from their sidewalk. Well, we've got buildings that are owned by people out of state that are vacant. Is there anybody removing that snow? Probably not, right? So that'd be something else even to think about, just to make sure it was safe for people to traverse those sidewalks in snow and ice events. But that would be additional, because, you know, it kind of hurts businesses at the other end of the street when somebody in the middle doesn't
Right.
remove the snow or ice from in front of their business. And if there's, you know, just a creative way we can get around that, just those sorts of things. But you are the most important person in this room regarding this conversation as a stakeholder and a business owner and a building owner. I want to hear what your take is.
I mean, I've been downtown now for 8 or 9 years. There was no other place I wanted to be when I moved my business downtown because of what was happening. My clients love coming downtown. People love coming to the office just because of what's going on around that area. And to see the potential of it even getting better. You know, I've got a small daughter, and the safety, you know, for bright nights on the bluff walk and having, you know, the lighting that is necessary, and then the beautification. You know, we're doing a beautification project now with DLA where we've got some monies available, matching dollars available for businesses to put plants and flowers and just brighten spaces up. And when we see that happening on a larger scale, or the potential for it to happen on a larger scale, it just makes downtown more inviting. Makes people want to come down, and makes my business better, because people just want to be down there, want to come see us, want to come see me, and then patronize the businesses around. You know, it keeps me downtown for lunches and dinners and things like that, which I don't need but so much of. But it is it's something to look forward to for sure, because I've seen it happen. I travel a lot. I've got clients in 17 states, but going to Greenville, South Carolina, and going to Chapel Hill, and going to Chattanooga, and some of these places, and seeing what the impact is. Even Roanoke. I mean,
Yep.
go down to that town square in Roanoke, and they've done a lot down there in the last 30 years, and they've had a bid for almost 20 or more.
Over 20.
Yeah. So it's something to look forward to, and I think it'd be a huge advantage to what the progress that we've made in this city, and with the amphitheater coming online, all the visitors that are going to be coming in for various reasons. You know, Liberty keeps growing, graduations, people coming downtown. The better we can make downtown, the more attractive it is for people to come back and keep coming back. So.
Sure. No, thanks, that's helpful. And I think, you know, if you do it right, which I don't doubt that would happen, it also has the potential to really help out with assessments, right? Because if the demand rises, then the value of the properties are going to rise. And then that penny could go a lot further. I mean, we could be revisiting this in 5 years and be lowering it if we were to do it, right? We could be lowering the rate and be still getting more revenue if we do things right. So, no, I think this is a great presentation. I love the idea of getting this started and spending a year trying to engage and see if the demand is out there. I appreciate the time and energy you guys put into this. I think it was you that told me that this was what we should have done 20 years ago.
Most of the time, like we said, when a bid comes online, that's when, at the same time, the DLA or Lynch's Landing type thing would come online as well. We didn't do it. We didn't.
It's never too late, though.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Yeah, and you know, it's what it would enable us to do is do the extra stuff downtown that downtown needs without putting those pressures on every other part of the city, right? Saying, you know what, there's extra stuff downtown needs, and because of that, downtown pays for it, and then everybody, I feel like it's a win-win.
For sure.
You know, if we can get the property owners to buy in and say, we want this.
Absolutely. And I'll say, the current funding model for DLA is really challenging. And it's challenging for a couple of reasons. And number one, it relies very heavily on fundraising. And fundraising is very, very time intensive. You know, I'm looking at two nonprofit executives. You guys know that. And four politicians. You guys know that.
Unless you're Chris Boss.
Right. And the other is, there are expectations,
That
I
wasn't
think, in the
asked.
down.
That wasn't asked.
In the downtown community of what DLA should and should be doing, without a real understanding of the capacity of the organization. I think if we go through this process, it will really help clarify exactly who does what and what's possible and whose responsibility is what right now. Because I think, there are times where I have seen and heard folks be frustrated with DLA for not doing this, that, or the other thing, when quite frankly, there is no capacity for them to do it. And based on our MOU with DLA, it's the city's responsibility, right? So I think, any process that really clearly delineates, helps us clearly delineate what's the current benchmark level of service, what's the responsibility of the city, what's the responsibility of DLA, and what would we be able to do as an additional service downtown is super helpful, right? It's super helpful, and I think it makes it a lot easier for DLA to be successful and have expectations that are reasonable and doable at some level. So, sorry for the shameless plug there, but I think it's important to note that.
Does anybody else have anything to ask or add or
Just
anything?
one quick thing, Chris Boswell, he's been recognized for the Humanitarian Awards dinner on May the 22nd, I believe. So thank you for your service to the community, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Mayor Taylor, anything else? No, I appreciate it, and
Thank you.
what do
Your
you
help,
think the
appreciate
next
it.
step is before we?
So what I would say is if there's general consensus, and I feel like there is, we'd like to bring this back to the full council, after we kind of wrap up the budget this year, so probably July timeframe, or some, over the summer, if that
So with
works.
that, and then I guess one other technical question with that is, and this is probably something just for you to, I guess, put on the radar. I know that the MOU expires at the end of this fiscal year for DLA.
June, July 1st.
June.
Yeah.
So is there something we can do to look at a minimum, doing an extension through FY '26 on that?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that would probably change if we did a downtown improvement district. Is there something that we can do to look
Yeah,
at?
we're in the process of working through what that extension would look like. So,
Okay.
and we know we've got a deadline here in the next 4 weeks, I think. So we're close to having a final version of what that might look like.
Got it.
And
Okay,
so make
cool.
progress.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
All right.
Highly recommend the brown chair.
We pulled that one from the closet. It is actually a lazy boy, believe it or not.
Wow.
Should I ask for the receipt?
It is very old.
I was gonna say, I can't imagine how old that chair is.
All right, so the next item we have on our agenda is accepting a $125,000, I think you said it was a gift, right? From the Awareness Garden Foundation to improve parking at the Ed Page entrance to the Blackwater Creek Trail, and that will be Deputy City Manager Greg Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an exciting project. If you remember back to December of 2013, City Council appropriated $250,000 from our year-end.
23.
Did I say 2013 again?
Yes, you did.
I wrote 2013 in the initial transmittal document for this item, and Donna had to correct me. So 2023, council appropriated $250,000 from year-end excess fund balance to be matched by $125,000 in a gift or donation from the Awareness Garden to improve and add parking down by the Ed Page entrance of the Blackwater Creek Trail. So you've got a map up here. Since that point in time, we have hired a design firm who has come through and drawn a design plan for this parking lot. So to orient you, this is the existing parking at the trailhead. This is the trail itself. This is the Awareness Garden, and this is the design for the new parking. So you'll see it's adding, I believe, around 48 spaces. Good news is we have full design drawings. We have got an engineer's estimate of the total cost of the of the project, and it's right in line with the total amount of funding that we have available. So this gift from the Awareness Garden is only part of the work that they're doing out there. They are continuing on a capital campaign to make other improvements and investments to the garden itself. I don't know if you guys have been out there, but it is absolutely beautiful facility. And I don't know, there's very few people in the world who haven't been touched by cancer in some way. And it's just a really nice amenity within the city. So this is a good news project. It's a public-private partnership. The Awareness Garden is prepared to make the donation to the city, any day. But this is an item that'll come to council on the 13th for the first reading for council to adopt this or appropriate this $125,000 gift. So we're very excited about the project.
Any discussion?
No, it's a great project, amazing project. We appreciate the community working and supporting that project as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Reed?
I think it's wonderful. I'm to hear it, so do we just need a motion on it?
Mayor Taylor, you have anything to add? Do you need any action from us on that?
Yeah, I believe we,
So, if you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I just move we accept this generous gift. I think it's wonderful and happy to take it.
excellent.
Got a motion to accept the $125,000 from Councilmember Reed and
Second.
from Dr. Wilder. I'll go ahead and call the vote. Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Yes,
Dr. Wilder?
yes.
And then I'll also be a yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, the next item on the agenda is going to be a revisit resolutions for federal grant guidelines based off the changing federal executive orders, and that'll be presented by Donna Witt.
This is something that Chairman Mischens has brought to the committee. Honestly, when it comes to federal money, if they tell us we've got to sign an agreement that I wear purple every day of the week, I'm going to wear purple every day of the week. So as these guidelines regarding DEI or anything else that comes down, when we apply for federal grants, we make sure when we apply for those that we can respond to those and follow those guidelines. So I don't see really a need to do this. So as things are washing out and coming together in Washington, those guidelines, honestly, a lot of our federal money flows through the state. And so there will be confirmed in the General Assembly what those guidelines look like so that when they finally get to the local level, we'll know exactly what we need to, if we do need to sign an agreements for, to accept federal dollars, we would put that in place. But at this point, I think we're a little premature to be able to do something like this because honestly, we're gonna abide by what we need to do to keep our federal dollars. They're very important to us and especially to schools.
Yep, so I know, I believe we learned in one of the joint committee meetings, I think one of the last ones, that the direction has already come from the state for them to certify and remove all of those programs and practices from the DEI from city schools. I know one of the concerns that I have, this has been a little bit of a football since I first got sworn into council, is I've heard from staff members about continued city funding of DEI training through the end of the year last year, off-site, not through VCIC, through somebody else. So, if we're doing these things, I know that there was a lot of, information generated around, changing the title of Dr. Jennings' former position. But the reality is that there were still programs and training being funded by the city. So how are we going to know that that's not happening moving forward from this point? Because I really don't believe that our public dollars should be funding this type of divisive training.
So my understanding is we are not spending city dollars on training that would be considered divisive training at this point. If we find that there is an instance of where this may have occurred, then we would investigate it, and we would likely put an end to it at that point. I think from the city manager's office down, we've been very clear that what we are going to fund is that type of training that is required by all of the federal, and I'm missing but the federal civil rights legislation. Any training related to our Title VI and our Title VI plan, there's another title that I'm missing, we will do. Those are plans that are submitted on behalf of a number of departments that require us to do X, Y, and Z. But anything like what we were funding through VCIC, that has been stopped. That is not happening any longer. And what I'd ask is, if there's a concern that anyone on council has about a training or anything else that we're doing as an administration that might put us in jeopardy for some of these federal funds, let us know so we can take a look at it.
And I guess the other question is, how are we auditing this stuff, right? If we're, an example is I'm very familiar with Action for Change, because when I worked for the city, I actually applied for Action for Change because they didn't have any veterans on Action for Change, so that's how I know about it. And that is that's something that was set up because of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, and that is a full-blown, started out as a social justice program is what it was, right? So we had staff time, staff members contributing to a social justice program on the public taxpayers' dime. And that's totally inappropriate. And so the question that I have is, what are we doing to make sure that this stuff is not continuing with this type of work?
Well, Action for Change still exists.
Okay.
But there's no DEI training with it. What in my opinion, and working with that group, is like for finance, we get all of finance together periodically to get to know each other. Well, I have a very diverse group, which is great because we all learn from each other. And what it has become is really making sure that each city employee feels welcome, that they are treated fairly, and that in their work group and across the organization. And I think it's more of that. I don't see it as inclusion training or something like that. It's really about how do we all get along? Because I know being old, I got a lot of young people that I don't think like, so I have to, work on that a little bit. But it's more that is really what A4C has become.
Sure, and the reason I ask these questions is because, it's out there. I think it was a City Source newsletter that says that they were adopting the framework from GARE, which is flat out Government Alliance on Race and Equity. It's a flat out social justice, DEI organization. All they do is push divisiveness inside local government. So my question is, how are we ensuring that if there's public documents out there saying that this organization has adopted that framework, are we now saying we're not doing that anymore? Is that what it is? Or-
So I'll look into whether or not that has been the case. I know we have Dr. Jennings from the city manager's office.
Sure.
Who is still serving as a liaison from not as a member, but as a liaison from the city manager's office to A4C. She very clearly understands the directive from the city manager's office. To the extent that we are auditing what they're doing, she's helping with that
Sure.
tremendously. I could tell you, for instance, there's an upcoming training that they're offering on an introduction to sign language, right? So I think some of what we have.
And that's great. That's good training.
Right. Some of what we,
perfect.
that's sort of the, I think, the direction that A4C is heading in, and is what they're providing for employees at this point. It's also an employee affinity group, but anything that is going to potentially get us in trouble with any of our federal funders, we're paying very close attention to, and Holly's helping a lot as our lead.
And what-
Chuck Kramer is also another director
Correct, yeah.
that's on
Yeah.
the, and he would be a veteran
Yep.
as well,
I
that he is
remember
on
when I was on all
A4C.
those Zoom calls. I remember when all that happened. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess something else that I have a concern about too is Leadership Lynchburg, because they have branded themselves as making DEI a core part of what they do. It was on their website as recently as January. So if they haven't changed their curriculum and they just changed their website, we need to examine what it is are they doing in Leadership Lynchburg, because I know since I've been here, we've approved, I think, one of the appointees attending Leadership Lynchburg, and that was a pretty substantial, I think it was several $1,000s to attend that program. So again, I would see that as a way of spending public funds on DEI training or DEI programs. And I just want to make sure, I don't have any issue with the program as long as the principles that aren't supposed to be taxpayer funded aren't in it, right?
Right.
So I guess the question that I have is, and when I originally presented this to you was not necessarily this resolution as is, but I asked you for a recommendation, just to see, what can we do to ensure that we're not paying for this stuff with taxpayer dollars, that we're protecting our federal dollars, and kind of give you guys the what you need to do to audit things and make sure we're not.
Yeah,
Paying for it.
I think what we'd say at this point is, we are, right? We're paying very close attention. We have a liaison amongst A4C, and if there are onesie-twosie items that may, even at the very least, just create concerns.
Sure.
We're going to address them, as we identify them. But I can tell you, there is, at a central level, we are being very careful and intentional about how city funds are being spent, because we know the importance of our federal dollars. And the other thing I would say is, as the federal agencies make actionable some of these concepts and ideas that have come through the executive orders, we're going to get much more defined and clear guidance.
Right.
Some of that guidance could be, hey, we would like your council to adopt an overall policy, or we would like the city administration to certify that X. When those items come down, we would very proactively bring those to council or certify as is required. We just want to make sure that we're being very measured in our response and very responsive to the directions we're getting from the feds.
And I appreciate that. And I guess, closing for me and any other comments anybody else may have is, what I would ask is that as this guidance comes, that you make us aware of it, that we make the public aware. We got the guidance. This is what we're doing to be in compliance, and we're in compliance, and we've got no concerns.
Excellent.
And I think that would be a good path forward from this point. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Dr. Wilder?
I got comments, but I don't know if I want to give them or not, because I got to go to another meeting. So it's just, I need to prepare my thoughts, because I'm just honestly serious. In the climate we're in, it's like every effort is made. Like in education, we learn differently. You gotta have different learning styles. And sometimes because of your upbringing, because of the culture you're in, because of various things, certain as testing, they have different cultures. Therefore, you need to be taught how to teach all kids. All kids don't learn the same. Some have disabilities, some have learning disabilities, some have culture disabilities, and they're different. And I'm so afraid we as children of God are so keen on, I don't want to teach you because you're different. I'm so afraid of that we get into a place, and I don't want to go along with this, please. And I know I'm getting rebuttal, and I just didn't want to say anything because I don't like being here forever. But I'm just saying, from my heart, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. We as children of God that love, I want to love this little child regardless of his color because he has a learning disability. I want to do what I can so this child can learn. And they say, you can't teach him like that because he's black, because he was born this way. You can't teach him that. We got to teach a certain standard way. Anyway, I'm going to stop. I'm just concerned about the path our country. I'm just concerned. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But just as a person who pays taxes as well, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. But it is what it is. You know, I look at our population of our force. But every time I go to graduation, I look at how many people graduated. And I'm not saying hire people because of the color of their skin. What efforts are we making to hire people of all of our, that look like our community, that reflect our community? And when I look at that, I may see one person of color, I may see one female, and I see all this other group. I'm like, are we making efforts to recruit everybody? And I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, don't quote me saying high quota. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, are we making efforts to get our information out there? Are we giving every opportunity? Do we go to this place to recruit? Do we do this place to recruit? Do we put it in this magazine? How are we doing social media? Are we making efforts to make sure the whole community is involved in that process? That's all I'm saying. But again, I don't want to go along with this. I gotta process this. I gotta process this so I can really adequately respond to it. This is coming from the heart. I know I'm rambling. But again, I hear what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I gotta adequately process this and respond in a professional, sanctified manner, that a man of God that I am. Right now, flesh is trying to rise up, so I'm trying to calm it down. So I'm trying to say, calm down, brother, and let me just process all of this and get back to it. Thank you.
Dr. Wilder. Councilmember Reed.
Calm it down.
No, I'm good.
Mayor Taylor. Good. Thank you. I don't think we've got anything else to add on that. All right, the next one will be the FY 2025 General Fund Reserve for Contingencies update, and that will be Ms. Donna Witt.
We have nothing new to report. Our balance remains $1,083,840, including the manager's discretionary funding.
Excellent. Any discussion on that, Dr. Wilder? Councilmember Reed? Mayor Taylor? No. And I have no discussion either. Thank you, Ms. Witt. And the final piece on our agenda right now is the monthly revenue collections update. Again, that'll be Ms. Donna Witt.
Well, this is concerning. So, our revenue collections now are, for February, have more mirrored 2022 than they have 25. So we're behind in our revenue collections, and I'm really starting to get worried. So for our sales and use tax, we were $288,000 below what we projected for budget, which really flattened us out for the year at $132,000 over budget. I'm meeting with the Commissioner of Revenue again on Thursday to look at our 25 numbers again, just to make sure we think we're still okay. But it's concerning that these revenues are not growing like they once did. Consumer utility tax, electric, we're close to flat with budget, which is about where we are every year based on weather and all that. Meals tax, this is another surprise. So this is our second worst month since January of 2022. It's concerning. We're under budget by just over $1 million. Again, going to work with Mitch, see what March numbers look like. We're hoping to get those in the next couple of days, and actually have them for our Thursday meeting. We had a terrible month of February. So just really watching these very closely, and just want to put that out there, that staff's paying attention. Our lodging tax, we're continuing our decline. We're about $360,000 below budget. It's almost every month, we're not meeting our 25 budget, which is concerning. And amusement tax, we're basically flat to budget. We're $5,000 under budget, but just don't want to see that continue to decline. So those are, I've read a couple of reports at the state level and the federal level are saying that they're seeing a little bit better numbers in March, so I hope ours will mirror that. But just keeping a real close watch on this. I think people are uncertain, and they're just slowing their roll a little bit. And we don't normally see that in our meals tax, but we're finally seeing that in our meals tax here, that it's following sales tax.
Any discussion, Dr. Rowley?
No, I just, again, I know thank you for researching and seeing what they're saying about these numbers and the economy and the kind of things. And we just appreciate you. Because it's so important. My hat's off to y'all. Try to balance this, balance everything else, and budget season as well. And just seeing what's coming in and why is it not coming in, to analyze it, have the staff and team to analyze why is these numbers this way, why is this one this way. I appreciate that so much. And just thank you for your team for the efforts.
You're welcome.
We just have so much faith and trust in you. And again, I'm not saying, my back is turned, I'm not gonna look at anything, whatever. But again, we appreciate your service and the work you and your team have done. And over the years, I worked with you, I was on the school board. You've always been fair. You've been so polite. You're a beautiful person. So thank you, your team, for helping. Appreciate it.
I will add one more comment. One thing that impacted February, for the first time in a number of years, is snow. But we had those two significant
Yeah,
snows,
yeah.
which probably impacted our meals tax, where
Yeah.
people didn't get out to eat. So thankfully, that's behind us. It's spring, so hopefully we're going to move in a positive direction.
Councilmember Reed, you have anything? No. Mayor Taylor?
Yes, Ms. Donna, I know you're going to do everything in your power to give us a balanced budget.
Yeah, I might have to go get a sandwich and help,
So,
help them sales tax, meals tax.
just so we, kind of, and I appreciate you guys putting this together. I know it's a lot to track all these revenues as they're coming in, and
No,
certainly we
that's-
appreciate Mitch Knuckles and the work that he does and his involvement in this. I know that he's a great partner for you
He
in-
is.
in this stuff, and
Legendary commissioner.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's really helpful.
He
So-
is the true goat.
So just looking at some of these things, when I look at, just to make sure that I'm understanding this right, so when we look at the sales and use tax, the total, the bold number at the bottom, where we're showing actual FY '25, 14.8 million,
Yeah, that's what's been collected.
so that's the total that's been collected.
Right, so and the adopted 25 is what we projected, so we're $132,000 above projected, but when the next column, the last column, is where we are compared to 24, and we're only up $146,000 compared to 24, and normally, we're really seeing growth, and we're
So, but
pretty close to budget
we
there.
are 132,000 ahead of
We are ahead of budget,
budget on that, and on the
Yes.
consumer utility tax, electric, we're at 2.5 million collected.
correct.
We're about 87,000, give or take $60 ahead.
Yes,
And then when we look at meals tax, we're at about 13.6 million. And you're showing us as a total as of 1 million behind on that. Is that,
we're at,
or excuse me, I was looking at actual assessed, actual collected,
yeah, 13 million.
13 million.
And so we're below by $1,050,000-ish.
Okay. And then on the lodging tax, 2.4 million, actual collected, 361,000 behind where we're adopted.
Correct.
And then on the amusement tax, 644,000 collected at about $5,000 behind.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Well, that's all we've got on that. Next is roll call. Dr. Wilder, do you have anything?
No items.
Councilmember Reed?
No, I'm good.
Mayor Taylor?
No items.
I have no items either. I appreciate it. And the next Finance Committee meeting will be Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 3 PM. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.